Hello loyal subjects, how are you today? Today we are here to talk about the third book in Sarah J Maas's Throne of Glass series, Heir of Fire. I actually finished this like a couple weeks ago, so I've had a lot of time to digest the story and everything that I want to say about it, so I'm just gonna hop right into it. I think this might be my favourite book so far, I'm not sure. It felt a lot different to the previous two books. They had a much different feel, like the romance kind of took a back seat and it was all character development. If you have not read this book yet, then I would implore you to go and do that. Then, once you've read them, come back and we could talk about it. Also, I would beseech you that you read The Assassin's Blade. So I would say if you haven't read The Assassin's Blade, read that, then read Heir of Fire. There are characters and plot points and just background on Selena that you will want to know. Or at the very least read it before Queen of Shadows comes out in September. Okay, so that's all for non-spoilery parts. Bye! Okay, so Heir of Fire. In this book, we kind of follow three main plot points. So first, we are introduced to this new character, quite a few new characters in this book actually, and this character is named Manon Blackbeak, and she is the heir to the Blackbeak clan of witches. This whole witch storyline, when I first started reading those chapters, I was like, oh, this is boring, I want to get back to Selena and the others, you know? But as it went on, I came to really enjoy those. When we first get a hold of all these dragons and these wyverns, we assume that Manon is going to get Titus, but that whole turnaround where she goes with the small bait dragon instead was like the first step, I really think, in her kind of character arc, because we see her relationship evolve with Abraxas and she starts to like grow a heart, or she gets these feelings and she doesn't know what they are. Oh, I thought that, yeah, that was very enjoyable to read about. Their whole relationship was kind of like How to Train Your Dragon, except instead of an adorable dorky teenager, we've got an immortal, bloodthirsty witch. Awesome. I kept thinking that the king was going to turn on all of the witches. We kept getting these drops about like the blood of the men tasted rotten and weird and that the meat tasted weird. I kept thinking that they were gonna come up to that in some way, like in the climax of the book or whatever, but we didn't get answers on that, so I'm thinking that's gonna play a part in the next part of the book. But I kept thinking that they were gonna, like, all of the king's men were gonna turn around and kill all of the witches. Because there's no way he's just gonna let them go with those dragons after they fight for him in this battle war that seems to be brewing. But I'm really looking forward to how Manon is going to play into the next few books, because I want her to come onto Selena's side, but it's hard to tell. I don't think that that will happen for a while, at least. I mean, there are still 3 more books left in this series, and whenever I start to think I'm drawing conclusions to plot points and stories, I'm like, hold on, we're only halfway there. We have still got so much left to go. Like, these first 3 books, I feel like they're just like these stepping stones, you know, that are leading up to these epic finales in these later books. Oh, it's gonna be awesome. So then we've got Chaol and Dorian and all the other people in Rifthold. There's sort of still this divide between Chaol and Dorian. While Dorian is off with Sorsha, we'll get to that in a minute, Chaol was kind of busy helping Aedion, who at the start we think is some douchebag, but turns out to be loyal to Selena and the cause and the rebels and all that, and he's been like playing the king this whole time. I really liked Aedion. I grew to really like him, and I really hope that he gets out of prison and that him and Celaena can be reunited. But oh my god, Chaol. Throughout this whole book, he's been helping Aedion and he's helping the rebels, but he still won't pick a side. Like, Celaena and Dorian, they've picked a side. You know, they are against the king, and I get that Chaol swore loyalty to the king and all that, but we know that he is evil, that he is like he kills masses of people. He is just a rotten human being. Why is that even a choice for you? It's like, would you rather help the heroic good guys that are trying to make the world a better place and more livable for everyone, or King of the Dicks? You know, I get that he made his stand at the end and now he's on our side, but it just annoyed me how long it took him to make that transition. Okay, so Dorian in this book. Dorian, he's kind of lost at the start. When he started up this thing with Saoirse, I just thought they were so cute. I think after everything that happened with Celaena and just his dad and all of this that's happening to him, Saoirse is exactly the kind of person that he needed. Someone who's soft and sweet and kind, you know, someone who isn't difficult to love, someone who is just such a great support system for Dory. And since Chaol was so on the outs with him, he really didn't have anyone else but her. I don't get why people dislike Saoirse so much. Like, she literally never did anything wrong. All she ever did was try to help Dorian with his magic and his life, you know. Why would you dislike her for that? She is cool. And it was so sad at the end when, oh my god, that whole climax ending with the king was horrible, awful. Like, we had the kind of climaxes with Celaena and Manon, and so I'm like, oh my god, there's still too much book left. Something's gotta happen. And when they kept delaying their leaving the castle, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go next week, we're gonna go tomorrow. I'm like, just go now! Please! So when that all went down, I was very upset. Dorian gets down on his knees in front of his father and is like, please, I'll do anything, just don't kill her. And he's just like, nah, and cuts her head off. Oh my god! Poor Dorian! The fella just can't catch a break. And then when he bursts out with all of his ice magic, he saves Chaol's life. I was like, yeah! That glory only lasted for like 2 seconds though, because he managed to give Chaol enough time to leave, but he got captured. And when they put that collar on him, I was like, no! I so wanted Dorian and Chaol to just escape together. If only Dorian had gone out with them, then I would have been very satisfied with the ending. Like, it was still a good ending. I'm just so worried for Dorian now. The first chapter of Queen of Shadows is going to be told in Dorian's perspective. So, I don't know, is this going to be like the Imperious curse? Is he going to be aware of what he's doing? Is he still going to have cognitive thought? Or is his body just going to be this vessel for some demon? Oh my god. I feel like Dorian really got the short end of the stick in this book. And finally, we have Celaena. Now, Celaena at the start of this book is really messed up. She's still really hurt from Nehemia's death, and she's still hurt about what happened with Chaol, and so she's kind of alone in the world right now. And she's just the only thing that keeps her going is this vow that she made to Nehemia. Oh, it was so sad. She was so messed up in the first half of this book, she kept saying like how she was empty inside and there was nothing to her and her life was worthless, and I was like, no, Celaena, you've got so much going on. So Celaena's sort of thrust into this fairy world where she has to learn how to harness her magic, which is cool because we didn't really get a whole lot of that at the end of Crown of Midnight. It's just kind of thrust on us like, oh yeah, did you know Celaena's a fae and that she's like the princess of Terrasen, and she has her helpful guide Rowan. At first I really did not like Rowan. I thought he was just a massive ass and was doing no good to Celaena, and he would just keep being mean to her and putting her down, and she gave just as good as she got. But I was like, why are you here? Go away, you're not helping anyone, just piss off. But then I was like, wait, people seem to like him, he's probably got some backstory, I'll give him a chance. And I did, and it turned out to be very good. The relationship that developed between Celaena and Rowan was great. Just that they've got such a solid friendship that there's no like romantic sexual tension there. It was hinted at like a few times, but it never went down that road, and I'm very thankful for that. Celaena does not need that in her life right now. And so the process of Celaena slowly unlocking all of her powers was awesome to watch. When they were getting chased by those skinwalkers and she like jumps off the cliff and goes into her fae form and then just like sets the whole forest on fire, I was like, whoa. And I just keep coming back to the fact that Rowan is like an ice wielder, just like Dorian. I think what's gonna happen, we're gonna get Dory back, and then maybe Rowan can teach Dorian how to use his magic. So then the three of them could be like the dream team of magic wielders. Am I right? We really got to see so much development to Celaena's character in this book. We know that she's had a shit deal, and we know sort of what happened with the death of her parents, but to actually get the full backstory on Celaena and what happened and how the king just like completely destroyed her life was insane. Her dealing with her demons at the end when she's fighting against those demon princes, like embracing her past and like forgiving herself for things and getting past these memories and accepting who she is, where she came from. It was so great. Like her transformation at the end, and when she's using her powers and she just obliterates all those guys, was awesome. When the king found out that Aelin was still alive was awesome, but that is going to be nothing compared to when he finds out that Aelin and Celaena are the same person. Aren't you going to look like the fool? That whole thing at the end when we find out that the necklace, the pendant that her mother gave her was really a word key and that Arabin has the key, I was so pissed off. Again, if you have not read The Assassin's Blade, then you can't appreciate this for what it is, but let's just say Arabin, not the nicest guy. I am looking forward to that reunion because the girl that Celaena was in The Assassin's Blade is so different to the girl she is in Heir of Fire. She is going to be so much more powerful and confident and in control. That was a big thing with her magic, was that she had so much magic and that it wasn't how to harness it but how to control it that was her problem. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to go down when Celaena gets back to Rifthold and just takes on Arabin. The whole thing for Queen of Shadows seems to be that she's getting revenge on the men that have wronged her, being Arabin and the king. So I'm hoping that the ending of Queen of Shadows is a bit more optimistic than the ending of Heir of Fire. I just want her to get that shot in, to just be like, look at what you created. You could have killed me. You had so many chances, but you underestimated my power. power. Now I'm gonna end you. I'm gonna level your frickin' castle. I'm gonna take you down, and I'm not talking downtown, I'm talking 6 feet underground! As for predictions of the future, right now, it doesn't look like Selena is going to get with any of them, because her and Dorian, they don't really seem like a possibility anymore, because he's kind of moved past her, he's kind of gotten over her, you know, and he said like he was just foolish to think that he would love her because he was just like a boy in love with the fire and all that, and I totally get that. That's why I was happy when he got with Sasha, but whatever. And at the end of this book, when she takes off Chaol's ring and she kind of lets him go, because the Fae have this whole thing about mating, and she talks to Rowan and she says that, you know, I tried to hurt Chaol once. Does that mean that he's not my mate? And then Rowan kind of says like, oh, it might have been, you know, that you weren't as in touch with your Fae side as you are now and all that. Skeptical? I think so. There was actually, someone said on Tumblr about a theory on the whole mating thing. Here's this snippet from Heir of Fire from a flashback to when Aelin was a kid regarding Aedion. It was their bond, marked by blood and scent and something else she couldn't place. A tether as strong as the one that bound her to her parents. Stronger in some ways. And then she goes on to say that they might have been mated to each other as children without them knowing it, because even though they are cousins, Sarah J. Maas has said that they're distantly related enough that people in the Terrasen court were talking about them maybe getting married. And that was what Rowan could taste in her blood when he bit her, and what everyone is sort of smelling off of her, why all of the Fae males were staying away from her, because she might already be mated to Aedion. That seems like it could be a very possible theory. The fact that he is so protective of her and that he felt like his life was over after he thought that she died. It seems like it might be a possibility, just saying. I don't know how I feel about that, because I just can't see Selena and Dorian getting back together, you know? For my long-term predictions, obviously the series has to end with Selena on her throne and Dorian on his throne. There is still that possibility that they could marry for political reasons. And Chaol, I mean, I was thinking before that he could get reinstated as like the Lord of Aniel, but now that's kind of off the table. So he would have to end up as like either a guard, bodyguard, captain person for Selena or Dorian, or death. I think is the main card that's on the table for Chaol. What I hope will happen in Queen of Shadows, I just want them to get Dorian back, mainly. I want Selena to get that goddamn word key off of Arabin. I want them to take down one of the towers so that they can have magic back in Adalin. That would be great. It would make the fight with Selena so much more possible. So I just want everything to get better. I want the kind of resistance against the king to really kick in now and show that he is not in control of everything. I don't know. I think Selena's gonna have to stay pretty undercover, because I don't think he would take very kindly to finding out that she didn't kill the royalty in Wendlin. So that is all I have to say. I am so anxious to get the next book. I'm happy that I'm finally caught up, but now I have to wait for the books, and I don't like waiting. So, I will see you next time. Goodbye. Okay, so I know that this is kind of last minute, but I just had a thought that I forgot to mention in my video, but don't you think it's weird that we don't know the name of the king? We just know him as the King of Adalin, Dorian's father, the ruler, whatever, but I noticed it in Heir of Fire that Sarah J Maas would keep using these pronouns or different titles instead of actually saying his name. I don't know, is he possibly someone that we have read about in the past? Is he maybe some immortal figure? I don't know. I think it is worth noting that there is a reason why we do not know the king's name, and I think that is definitely going to be a plot point in the later books. It's definitely going to come up. I don't know why this isn't being talked about, but I feel like I'm onto something here. I might just sound like some crazy conspiracy theorist, but I think it's something that is going to affect the story. Ah!